The information provided in this video is for informational purposes only, and not for the purpose of providing legal advice. You should contact an attorney to obtain advice with respect to any particular issue or problem. Hello, Cassandra. How are you today?
Good. How are you, Janae?
Doing fantastic. We have another one of our wonderful talks, and this time we're going to be joined by Ashlee Wright, who had a few questions, and we said, why don't you just come on to the show and ask directly instead of being interpreted through us? So you can ask follow-up questions if you have any. And Ashlee, not sure if you're that familiar with the way we do things here, but you are the speaker. You are going to tell us what you want to tell us about yourself, and you're going to ask your questions, and we're going to have a conversation. How does that sound?
Sounds good to me.
Excellent.
Yeah, so just a little bit of backstory. I am a former professional figure skater, and have since retired. I was looking for kind of a hobby to pick up, something to get me outdoors, doing, anything under the sun. And I actually decided to pick up playing the piano. And what I've discovered is that since I actually have a camera drone, it might be fun to kind of use some of the dresses in my closet that, I don't necessarily get to wear every day, and go create some videos. And because I'm getting better at the piano and getting better at playing, I really wanted to kind of incorporate my own playing in the music videos themselves. But the questions I have today are, how do I even go about being able to post the music videos on platforms like Instagram, like YouTube? I really would like to try and find a way to essentially monetize off of it. If somehow, some way, I end up getting a lot of views and I go viral, I'm always looking for a side hustle or turning a side hustle into a main career path. And so today, most of my questions are just surrounding, like, how do you monetize off of yourself? How do I go about this legally? Because again, it's not my own music. Is it just as simple as saying, I don't own this music? So I have so many questions.
Sure. Yeah. So, kind of as a starting point, so you have two different copyrights that you need to worry about. One is the copyright in the recording, and then the other is the copyright in the composition, which is the publishing side of it. So here, you are creating the recordings. So that copyright, the sound recording, as well as the copyright in the actual video, that would belong to you, Ashlee. So the good news is you don't have to worry about getting permission on the recording side. If, for example, let's say you were playing a recording in the background, someone else is recording and doing a dance routine or a figure skating routine, then you would need to worry about getting permission to use that recording copyright. So for you, since you're playing the piano, you're not using anyone else's recording, you don't have to worry about that side of it, but you do need to worry about the composition copyright. So whenever you are combining a song with visual images in a video, even if it's just a lyric video, any type of visual images, you need to get what is called a sync license. And that is permission from the publisher or the writers who own that song to be able to create a video with it. So technically, if you are creating these videos with cover songs, you would need to get a sync license to do that. The only exception would be if it's very, very old music, like a lot of classical music, where it's in the public domain, meaning it's no longer protected by copyright, then you may not have to worry about that.
Okay. Um, that was a lot of information at once. Okay, so so if I want to make these music videos, I know that I can, learn the song and I can play a couple of tunes, right? Visually, I would have the piano inside the music video itself. But if I want to use the backtracks of the music, because I'm, again, a novice, I just started, playing the piano. I'm by no means a professional. So if I don't have to go to a professional recording studio, pay them to, get the audio from myself and then worry about being like perfect in my notes and everything like that, is there a scenario in which I could just use the backtracks of the actual soundtrack itself from like the actual music, and then just be able to essentially copy and paste it and then make my music video and like stream it that way?
Unfortunately, if you're using any part of the original recording, or anyone's recording that is not yours, then you have to get permission on that side as well. So on that side, it's called a master use license. That's where you want to combine someone else's recording with video. On the composition side, it's called a sync license, but it's basically you're asking for permission to use something that someone else owns the copyright in order to combine it with a video.
Let me just ask this. Ashlee wants to play the piano herself. She wants to play something that I wrote, and she wants to just record herself playing the piano and singing the song in her room. She doesn't need permission for that. She just has to get a sync license. She doesn't need permission from me. I shouldn't say that, because it is essentially permission from me, right, for the sync license. But she does not need anything else, just the sync license.
So if she is not using any part of your recording, Janae, then yes, that's correct.
Okay.
It does get a little more complicated, and this isn't just in your example, but in any example. So you need the sync license to be able to combine the song with visual images to create a video. You also may need a mechanical license to create a cover version of
Aha.
Janae's song or someone else's song. And then there may also be public performance licenses, although those are usually handled by the platform, that you're putting the music onto. So there's kind of, even in this scenario where you're not using someone else's recording, there's sort of three different types of rights involved. And if you're making any changes, so if you want to create a video of yourself performing Janae's song, but you want to make some changes to what she wrote, then you have to get extra permission from her to be able to create a derivative work, to make changes to her lyrics or make changes to her music.
Okay, so she can just play it straight. Like if I have piano in that song, she can just play that part and sing the song, but she does still have to get all these different permissions. She's got to get permission from me first and
Right,
foremost. And I'm a simple example because I own all copyrights,
right.
whereas somebody else might be splitting it up. Okay,
Yep.
okay.
So, say, like, talking about copyrights, Janae, you said you're the one that owns it. But what if it's you and four other partners? Do I have to like get all four people on board? Do I just need to go to one? How do I get there?
When it comes to sync stuff, if someone, at least this is the way it works for us, if someone has permission to control the copyright, then you might only have to go to one person. But if this group did not do what Cassandra always tells us to do, which is to have this stuff set up beforehand, then you very well may have to go to four different people because they did not set up their contracts to say, and this person is the one that's going to control the copyright and say yay or nay to whatever comes along. Does that sound right, Cassandra?
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
Yay.
And you may, in scenarios, let's say, a very big artist, and maybe it's a hit song that maybe even has 10 writers on it, or however many writers it has, those writers often won't agree to allow one person to control it, or their publishers won't agree to that. So you may still have to end up going to everyone. Now, if it's a scenario like Janae mentioned, where someone has agreed, or all the writers have agreed, okay, this is really Janae's song. She's the one that's going to record it. So we're going to let her control licensing. Then you can just go, it's like a one-stop shop. You can just get permission from her on behalf of everyone.
Okay, and we're talking about licensing, but how much does a license actually cost? Because I have, Googled things, and it seems like there's a website out there that was like 15 cents on the dollar to get this song. Like, does that mean that if I want to upload it to four different platforms that I'm only paying, 60 cents in order to have that? Or is what I'm signing up for 15 cents per view on like the internet? Because things do go viral, and it gets expensive if you're talking 15 cents on the dollar, and then all of a sudden you get a million plus likes, a million plus views.
Yeah, so when it comes to sync licenses, it's all negotiable. So there is no sort of flat rate. It's really up to the writers and the publishers what they want to charge or what they are willing to agree to. So it can vary a lot. I mean, it can, maybe they really like the video and they say, well, we'll let you do it. We're not going to charge you anything. Or maybe they say, okay, but we want $30,000 sync fee. So it really, really can depend. If you're seeing those set rates, that's probably the mechanical license, because the mechanical royalty rate is set by law, and that's paid per stream or per copy that you sell. Those mechanical royalties are paid by, at least with streaming, they're paid by the streaming services. So you're not having to pay those. But if you wanted to sell CDs of your cover version or permanent downloads, then you would be responsible for paying those mechanical royalties. But the sync fee, most of the time, it's a one-time upfront fee, and it can just really vary a lot.
Okay, and you're saying that it's covered, under like the platform, like say of Instagram and things like that. But what if I'm essentially uploading original audio, quote unquote, because I'm not just going to upload my video with no sound in the background and then copy and paste what's already in the app's music library itself. Like, technically, it's a separate music that I would be uploading along with the video. And then I think that it probably would end up with that like original audio tab that pops up at the top. Even though we all know, it's Taylor Swift, even though we all know it's Olivia Rodrigo or like someone else, big, but am I still covered under that umbrella of Instagram then, if it's technically original but also still copied?
Yeah, so the mechanical royalty, that would be for, let's say you wanted to create a cover audio version of a song and put that on Spotify or Apple Music. Spotify and Apple Music will pay those mechanical royalties. But when it comes to videos, Instagram, all the other platforms do not pay the sync fee, and they don't get the sync license for you. So you would still be responsible for paying that. They may pay the public performance royalties, which is even a third type, which are collected by ASCAP, BMI, CSAC. Instagram may have a blanket license with ASCAP and BMI and CSAC to cover those, but you would still ultimately be responsible for getting and paying for the sync license.
Okay.
And every platform is different,
Yeah.
right? So their rules are different. So you can't even go by, well, I can do it on YouTube. Doesn't
Yeah.
mean you can do it on Instagram or
Yeah.
Facebook or
Okay.
whatever.
Because that was my next question, is like, okay, well, if I'm only creating something that's going to be 45 seconds or a minute and a half, like, is there a certain time length that I can use in order to like scoot around some of these issues? Like, if I uploaded only, partial videos to Instagram, and I split essentially a 4-minute video into, 3 segments or whatever, then rolled it over as a full version on YouTube. Because again, like, I was hoping to somehow find a way to eventually monetize off of this. And so with platforms like YouTube, it's something that you typically will end up watching longer length videos. And so a lot of times content creators will have ads like right in the middle of the video. I am guilty of being someone who pays so that I don't have to watch the ads, but if I added an ad in the middle of the video and somebody else ended up like me and said I would rather just subscribe for, $10.99 a month, and then I know I can just watch this video for 4 minutes, and I can watch every video on her channel without having to be disrupted by that. The concept of monetizing off of something that I've made makes sense. But if it's technically like the song is not written by me, it might be sung by me, I might get the license for it. Like I'm going around in circles because I'm just getting a little bit confused. So if you could just simplify that.
Yeah, it does get confusing because there are so many different types of licenses that you need with this stuff. But so on YouTube, one of the options that someone has, so if you were to, let's say you release the video without getting any licenses, and then whoever owns that song finds it, they have different options of what they can ask YouTube to do. One option would be to take it down. They can say this infringes on our copyright. We haven't given a license. We want you to remove the video. Another option is to say, we'll allow the video to stay up, but we want the ad revenue to come to us because we own the copyright in the song. And so that may be, what ends up happening. And that's how sometimes you see these videos that are up and they haven't gotten a license. And it may be a situation where it's just that the ad revenue is all going to whoever owns the copyright in that song.
Okay. Yeah, because it's really common for videos to go viral and it's of someone's wedding, right? And they have a live band playing and it's in the background and it's super romantic and, it hits the internet and everyone loves it. Is that also going to be an instance in which the composers and everyone else involved has the right to say, no, we don't like the fact that our song is playing in the background of your wedding video, take it down? Because that seems sad.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, they could. If they wanted to, they could. And in that scenario, if it's a DJ and they're playing the recording, now you have also the record company. And they tend to be a little bit more aggressive than the publishers as far as not letting their recordings be used without licenses. So if it's a DJ, now you have potentially the record company could ask to take it down and the publisher. If it's a wedding band that's playing covers, you don't have to worry about the record company, but you still have the issue with the publishers.
Okay. And could you just maybe go over the difference between a publisher and a record company, like a label?
Sure, yeah. So, kind of going back to those two different copyrights, the recording and the composition, record companies deal with the recording copyright. So, under traditional deals, they own all of those copyrights. A lot of times nowadays, you're seeing more distribution, licensing type deals where maybe the artist keeps ownership of the copyright, but the record company or the distributor has exclusive rights to it for a certain amount of time. And then the publisher deals with that composition copyright, so the music and the lyrics. So the easiest way to sort of understand that is to think about a cover song. Let's say Taylor Swift does a cover version of, a Madonna song, a song that Madonna wrote. In that scenario, Taylor Swift or her record company will own the recording that she creates. But Madonna, if Madonna wrote the song, she will, and her publisher will control the publishing and the composition copyright.
Okay. And so does that mean that Taylor just couldn't add different instruments and things like that if that's what she was wanting to do, and they would be able to have the veto power to do that, but not to say no, that she couldn't use the music as a whole?
Yeah. So if you want to create a cover recording of a song that someone else wrote, if you're not making any changes to the music or the lyrics, at least in the United States, they can't say no to you. It's called a compulsory license. So you can get a mechanical license, and as long as you pay those mechanical royalties, they can't tell you no. Again, if you're changing anything, then it's not covered under that. If you're adding video, it's not covered under that. But just a strict cover audio recording, they can't tell you no to that. But anything else, they can say no.
And I'm gonna interject one more time and say I want to make sure that we're not saying that you can take the music recording of Madonna's song and just sing over it and call that a cover, because that is not at all.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I want to make that clear. You would literally have to redo the music yourself,
that's right.
recreate the
Yeah.
music,
Yeah. You mean I
Yeah.
can't make
and
her my
sing over
backup?
it.
I can't make her my backup.
You can't take the instrumental version, sing over it, and say, this is my cover. That's no.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, you can't get the karaoke version and then yeah.
Yeah.
Any use of the original recording, even if it's, 1 second or 2 second sample, the label is going to come after you for that.
Okay,
Right.
yeah.
Which goes back to something you had mentioned, Ashlee. You said, oh, well, what's the time limit? Like, can I take 15 seconds? And we've covered that in our other videos as well. And Cassandra, what is the answer to that?
Unfortunately, yeah, there is no time. There a lot of people think, and for a while, a long time ago, they used to kind of operate under this idea that, well, if it's short enough, nothing will happen. And then there was a very famous case, I think it was in the 90s, where the court ruled, no, it doesn't matter, how short it is. If you use any portion of someone else's recording, then you need a license for that. I mean, ultimately, if you were in a copyright infringement lawsuit, one of the things the court will look at is how much you used, as far as determining how much money, to award to the copyright owner. But there is no kind of automatic license where if it's only 5 seconds or if it's less than 5 seconds, you don't need a license. Any amount, you unfortunately you have to get a license.
Okay, yeah, because like this is like perhaps dating me, but there, was an app called Vine, and it was like 3 second videos or 8 second videos, whatever it was. But I was thinking like, can I just snip and keep going, and create just essentially a really long thread of 2 second videos. But okay, and then my other question too is we're talking a lot about not being able to change the lyrics and such. That's fine, but a lot of artists start with one piece of music and then they transform it, and then the one that goes on the album is like the fully rehearsed, fully finished version. But what if I want to sing the lyrics of the original version itself? That's never been on one of their albums. Is that like something that I shouldn't do, or something that I'm allowed to do? Because then how do I get a license, I guess, for that song if there isn't a license for it, because it's technically transformed into another song version, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, and that's a really good question. So that automatic mechanical license, it only applies once the writer has approved the first recording. So the one of the rights that the composers and the writers have is to decide who gets to create the first recording of their song. So if this is an early version and it's never been recorded, then technically you wouldn't be able to get that automatic license. You would need to reach out to them and negotiate that separately.
Okay. And if I'm reaching out to these really famous people, how do I expect for them to reach back? Like, is there a specific person that I need to be talking to? Because I can't imagine that, if I just send an email to a famous person, they're going to just be like, oh, hey, Ashley. They don't know me. It's a lot like when I get random text messages from a stranger that just says hi. Like, I'm not going to answer that. So are there people within the record label or the publishing companies that I need to specifically target and like go to, and send an email? And then like, what do I even say? Like, hi, my name's Ashley. I learned how to play the piano and I really like to go wearing a pretty dress down the beach and make a little music video. How does that sound? Like, what do I write in this kind of an email?
Yeah, so it's tough. I mean, usually the first place that I would start is if you go to ASCAP's website or BMI's website, they have databases there where you can look up a song and it will show you all the writers and all the publishers, and then the contact information. So that's usually the best place to start the research to figure out who are the publishers on this song. To figure out who the label is, you can go onto Spotify and go to show credits, and it will usually tell you who the label is. And then you can get contact information for the publishers and the labels. If it's a huge publisher, Universal Music Publishing or something, they have dedicated sections on their website for people who are requesting sync licenses. It can be difficult to get a response. I don't know, Janae, I know you deal a lot with sync licensing. I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Well, I'm fortunate enough to be working directly with music supervisors, and that is their job. And I'm also on the end of it's my own music. So they're getting my permission versus me getting their permission.
Yeah.
But it brings up something that I think is a great idea. Maybe we can talk to some publishers because I don't think Ashley's the only one that has these questions. And we've been doing this a long time. And it seems to keep coming back to these types of questions because it's so complicated. And we've always said that. It's the music industry is so complex. People in it, myself included, don't even understand half of it. And it would be great, I think, to have somebody that does that specific job to say, oh yeah, it's impossible. Or, oh, all you have to do is, and that's how I learned about sync. I mean, I'm involved in a sync school that I've been involved with for over 3 years at this point. I'm still learning. So, Ashlee, do you think that would be helpful?
Yeah, definitely. Because I definitely have some questions for them as well. Like, what goes in this email? Again, like, should I be as specific as possible? Should I be creating the video and sending it to them in the hopes that they're just so wowed that they just immediately have to respond? Did they even open the email? How, I mean, I can't be the only person who wants this song, right? If it's someone, major and super mainstream. So how many emails a day are they actually getting from other individuals who are just like me, who want to start something but also don't necessarily know exactly the right verbiage and like how to get started?
Yeah.
Right, because there's a lot of permissions. There's a lot of permissions, and it all depends on what you're trying to do. Every scenario is different. So it would be interesting to have a conversation. It is so confusing.
Yeah, and it's tough to get through to them too. I mean, I normally recommend, there are companies you can hire where this is all they do is try to get permission for these kinds of things. And because that's all they do all day every day, they know exactly, okay, this publisher, this is their contact there, and but unfortunately it's expensive. So, it just depends. And unfortunately, what a lot of people in your position actually end up doing is they just put it out there and they wait and see what happens. And of course, as an attorney, I can't recommend that you do that because you never know. Absolute worst case scenario is they see it and they sue you for copyright infringement, which would be pretty rare, but it does happen every once in a while. Some people are more litigious about that kind of thing than others. But, just as a practical matter, that's what most people end up doing.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I am so scared of that though, just because we did have an instance with the Olympics, actually, not this past cycle, but the one previous to that. The pairs division, one of our Olympic gold medalist teams, they used a song that I guess was not covered, and the artist actually sued And US figure skating, we all have our own licenses in order to coach, in order to be a figure skater, that we pay yearly fees so that if we do get sued, we are covered under US figure skating. And I don't know necessarily how the outcome, was monetarily or anything like that, but they were eventually given the permission to use the song, but they had already skated to it, that it had already been done. And the artist had said, no, you weren't allowed to use that, and then came out and said, okay, it's fine. So I believe that there was some sort of monetary transaction that went down, but because of that, we actually have to use a specific website. We have to type in our programs at the beginning of the season before we use them in any local competition, any international competition. And if it's not covered under that, US Figure Skating says you're allowed to use it, but only at your own risk because they're no longer covering us. So something as big as the Olympics, I mean, even this cycle, it happened to a couple of people. I remember there was a guy doing a Minions program, I think it was, and the artist said, "No, you're not allowed to use my music." And then he had to he scrambled to, I think, use two different pieces of music out of the three that he had originally had. It happened to an ice dance couple. It happens to a solo singles ladies skater too as well. And so I guess like the more visibility it is, the more likely the chance of you running into an issue. And I suppose while I don't have that many Instagram followers, I'm just kind of doing it because it's something that makes me happy. It can also make a lot of people happy over a long period of time. And so I just don't know that the platform wouldn't grow all of a sudden and that I wouldn't run into these issues in the future. And it's the bigger you get, probably the harder it is to just be able to say, oh, well, it's okay, I'll just take it down. I think that everyone kind of wants a piece of the pie at that point. And from the outside, maybe it looks like I'm living a lavish lifestyle, but on the inside, I might not be. But just because of the visual factors, I could potentially get sued for way more than the platform itself is worth. So I do worry about that.
Yeah.
That's why we're trying to get information for people so they can make an informed decision. And then if you go ahead and do it, that's on you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and that is the risk nowadays. Sometimes things go viral overnight, and now suddenly maybe it is worth their while to take legal action. Normally if it's not something that's viral, usually worst case scenario is they'll file a takedown claim and the platform will remove it, and that's the end of it. Again, if they really want to sue, even if it has only 10 views, in theory they could, but usually it's when something goes viral. But I will say a lot of times if it does go viral, they may reach out trying to work something out because it may actually be to their benefit. If the video is getting millions of views, it's getting exposure for the song. So they may reach out and try to work something out. But yeah, I mean, it's always, of course, better to be safer if you can.
Yeah, yeah, because that would be very cool if they were like, "Hey, you know what? We loved your video. Let's put you in our next video." you know? Yeah, I'm all for it.
Okay. Well, I hate to end the conversation, but we can do this again with Ashlee because I'm sure there's other questions after you do some of your research that's been recommended.
Yeah.
More questions I'm sure will come up. And maybe I can get a music supervisor to come on.
Yeah.
And if you would like to be involved in that conversation, we would love to have you for that as well.
Yes, yes.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, so then I think we will wrap it up right here. Ashlee, you have some homework to do.
I
And
do.
if you have additional questions, we'll do this again. And I will work on trying to get a music supervisor. And, we could maybe lead directly to publishers and all that good stuff and work from there. I do recommend, Ashlee, that you do review our previous talks because we go over some of the stuff that we just went over today. Cassandra explains it almost every single video because, you hear it once and you go, yeah, I didn't get that. And then you hear it again and you go, well, that sounds a little familiar. And then you hear it again and you go, oh, and then you hear it again and then you hear it again and I think, I don't know how many we've done, but I'm finally able to say what you say, Cassandra. So it's only taken me like, I don't know, 20 talks before I actually have it, and I don't even have it that well. So I do recommend that you review the videos because Cassandra does a great job of explaining very similar things many different ways, and we recommend everybody do that because you're not going to get it in the first, and even you were involved in the conversation, and I'm sure you're still a tiny bit confused. And that's okay. It's confusing. You're not supposed to get it the first time. Cassandra had to go to law school for many years to get this stuff. Okay, so you'll be fine. Just review, and come up with some more questions as you review, and we'll talk about it.
Sounds good to me. Yeah.
Yeah, and especially this idea of the difference between the recording and the composition slash publishing. That is a concept that is hard for people that have been professional musicians for years and years that don't really understand the difference there, or people that are signed to record deals and they don't understand the difference. So that's a concept that it takes most people a lot of time to really understand the difference.
Yeah, it feels like I'm looking at a Venn diagram of like, here's the left circle and the right circle, and then somewhere in the middle is maybe a gray area, except there's not just two circles, there's not three circles, there's like 17, 18, 19, 20 circles.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they all connect in different ways, and I'm just trying to find the flow between all of them.
Yep.
There you go. That was actually perfectly said.
Yeah.
And I think on that note, we are going to say that is the end of this talk. And Cassandra, everybody knows you by now, but let's give them the way they can contact you so that you can do your magic with contracts and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so the easiest way is my website. It's cspanglermusiclaw.com. And if you go there, you can find my email, social media, all that stuff. So again, it's cspanglermusiclaw.com.
Excellent, excellent. And Miss Ashlee, do you want anything out there?
Well, my personal Instagram is Ashlee Wright 713. It's ASHLEEWRIGHT 713. I don't know what I'm going to be naming my future channel just yet, so you'll have to stay tuned to find out more.
Excellent. That sounds good to me. All right, ladies. Well, thank you so much for joining, and we will do this again. Yay.
Thank you.
Sounds great. Thanks, Shanae.
All right.